they are South Central gangsters. And I was like, what? Like, how? Okay, first of all, why are they working security if they're in a gang? Second of all, like, how did you know? Because they just look like young guys to me. And he's like, oh, well, like, they had tattoos across their neck that said, like, it was like a neighborhood gang. And I was like, oh my gosh, I totally just would have thought they just had a tattoo. You know, like, Hello, I'm Kristen. I have been a police wife for 9 years, going on 10, and I'm from Los Angeles. I'm so excited to share this story with you today about dating a cop and why you can't just have a normal date like a normal person. And I'm really excited because I think that if you are new to this life, even if you've been in it for a little bit, it will normalize some things for you. I have an Instagram page. I would love you to join me there. I have an amazing community of lots of police wives and first responder wives that follow me on there. I'm also starting my first course in January, and I will have a link below. If you are struggling with resentment, frustration, loneliness, any of the things like that, I have so been in your shoes, and I'm excited to help you to build the tools and skills that you need to find joy in this life. Okay, so here's the story. So about 2 weeks ago, my husband and I went on a date. We have 2 kids, so going out on a date isn't that common for us, and we're really excited to go to this place called House of Spirits in Los Angeles. And we went last year. It was such a blast. So we invited our Rick's best friend, his wife, who's also my friend, and his best friend's a police officer too. Rick wears a concealed weapon. That is unique. He wears it maybe off duty as well. I put that in quotes because LAPD, or Los Angeles officers, are told that they are not to ever really be off duty. Like, they're always kind of serving no matter where they are. And so Rick feels more comfortable wearing his concealed weapon on him almost all the time. So, like, because we have kids, he either has it on him, on his person, or it's in the safe. That's it. So I feel better about that. So we go out on this date. Usually when we go out on dates, it's not a big deal. He just has it on him, and it's not a big deal. But we drive by the entrance of this place and we see that there's security. And Rick's like, hey, can you text my friend and see if he got in with his gun? So I text his friend, and he said he didn't bring it because they had Ubered there, and so it would be like trouble. Like, where would he put it if he couldn't get in with it? So Rick legally carries off-duty a concealed weapon. I want to clarify that it's legal for him because he is an active law enforcement officer. But specific places can tell you that you cannot bring it in. So I'm like, okay, we're driving around, and Rick's like, I'm just gonna see how it goes. So we park and we go up into like where the security guys are, and they start scanning him, and it goes beep beep, you know, it does its thing, and he's like, what's this? And Rick's like, oh, it's just, I'm wearing suspenders, it's just the clip. And he's like, okay. And the guy kind of smiles at him, and he's like, oh, okay, and then he like scans another part, and he's like, what's that? And Rick's like, oh, it's just the clip again, it's just right there. And the guy kind of smiles at him funny, but he still lets him go in. Like, he doesn't even like check it. He doesn't ask him, he has like a coat on. He doesn't ask him to take it off or anything like that. And then he doesn't scan me at all. So I don't really trust security, because that was like, why even have it if you're not gonna check on like why the beep goes off, and you don't even check me. But I mean, I was in a dress, but it wasn't like a super tight dress. So anywho, so we go in, but that wasn't even the part of it that I want to talk to you about today. So Rick's like, yeah, those guys, those security guys, they are South Central gangsters. And I was like, what? Like, how? Okay, first of all, why are they working security if they're in a gang? Second of all, like, how did you know? Because they just look like young guys to me. And he's like, oh, well, like, they had tattoos across their neck that said like it was like a neighborhood gang. And I was like, oh my gosh, I totally just would have thought they just had a tattoo, you know, like I just wouldn't have seen it that way. And then he's like, and they were all friendly with me, like as if they knew who I was too. And I was like, oh. So when he says that, I'm like, what do you mean friendly? And this is like after our date. So we enjoyed our date, we enjoyed the night there, and then we're like on our way home, and I'm asking him these questions, like, because I'm just kind of curious, like, well, and he says, well, there's always like, a mutual kind of respect, like between the gangsters and the police. And this, I watched this movie, End of Watch. If you've never seen it, the actors in that movie like spent time with the South Central law enforcement officers, and it's realistic in that interaction that he's talking about. Like they're like friendly with each other, but not like so friendly. But you have to watch it to see. There's like this car scene, and I kind of, because I saw that movie when Rick says it, I know, I kind of understand like what it gives you a visual of what it is. But the guy's in the car, the police officer, and he's talking to like a criminal kind of guy on the outside of the car, and but the police officer has his gun here, like he's ready, he's holding it, but he's talking to the guy really friendly, really nice. So like they're on edge, but there's like a mutual respect between them. So I kind of got what he meant, but obviously I don't think I will ever get it, right? But I think as police wives and girlfriends, we get it more than the average person would get it. And that's why I wanted to share this story with you. I just thought, it's like, first of all, you can't even go out and have like a normal night. We always joke about like how police wives and girlfriends, we always face our back to the wall because our officers want to be able to see all their surroundings. They want to be able to face the door. And so that's just like a quirky little thing. But this was like a whole nother level of Rick seeing the world through a totally different perspective than me. I would have thought they were like hipsters, right? Like a lot of hipsters, they have tattoos, like young guys. But he like immediately knew they were gangsters. And then I asked like, well, why would they be working security? And he said, well, like they're young, they're in shape, and they can get paid well. And a lot of times the person that hires them, well, they wouldn't know either, right? They're just an average person, business owner or something. They wouldn't know necessarily that they're hiring these gangsters. So that was like a lot for me to take in on a date night. We had a blast, but I just want to share that story with you just in case you have other experiences like that. I want to share a second one that isn't really about dating, but just being like a mom and a dad as a police officer, and again with that concealed weapon. So I have this in my book as well. I have a police wife devotional. I have 42 stories in there, Bible verses and prayers. And basically the stories are like my growth moments in our marriage. And this was one of them when it came to like being a mom and a dad, as well as my husband being a police officer. But it has to do again with that concealed weapon. So we were going to like a music class for Leonidas, our son, and he was just a toddler, and Rick was able to go with us that day. He was off work, and it was like so awesome, right? And we had a blast. We leave, and it was just a trial class. So I was waiting for them to send me the information to like officially sign up. We were interested because Leonidas had a blast. And I get like an awkward phone call like 2 weeks later. So, and the lady's like, I wanted to let you know that someone was at your husband with you. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, well, someone said that he had a gun. And I was like, oh, yeah. And I was like, he's a police officer. And she was like, oh, haha. And she like laughs all nervously. And then it's like as if someone else is there, like listening to the conversation. And she kind of talks to them, and she's like, oh, he's a police officer. And then she's like, okay, but was he on duty? And I was like, well, okay, let me explain this to you. And I was like, they are told by his department that they are never off duty. Like they are to step in if an emergency or something crazy happens, wherever they are. So he's not really ever off duty. And she was like, okay, well, would it be possible for him to just not wear it during the class? And I was like, whew, no. Like my husband wears it everywhere. And you know, I'll talk to him, but maybe this isn't right for us, this class. And I was like, oh my gosh, like the perception of law enforcement as dangerous and not there to help us is so wrong. You know, like that she should have, and this other parent could have asked us. He does try to keep it hidden under his shirt, but maybe his shirt, you know, he was moving, he was dancing with our son. It's like, he doesn't look like a crazy person that's gonna do anything. Like he's there enjoying his day with his son. I wish that she would have just asked me. I have had one other mom at a jiu-jitsu class ask, but she assumed he was a police officer, like, oh, what does your husband do for work? Oh, okay, I saw his gun once, just curious. And she was like, oh, thanks for all he does. You know, it was a totally different perspective. And I just wish more people would see it that way. So I hope that these stories help you if your spouse or boyfriend also has a concealed carry weapon and you've had these awkward moments. But I always feel like these moments, we never went back to that music class, by the way. And sometimes I feel like writing a story in the newspaper about it but the world we live in right now, and where we live physically, there's not a lot of people that support law enforcement. So if I felt like people would actually read it and hear what I have to say, I would make that more public. But I hope that this story time helped you to understand that our spouses, our boyfriends in law enforcement, they see things a different way, and sometimes dating a cop is unique. It's still a blast. I still had so much fun on that date, and I feel like in those moments I really just try to ask Rick more questions and learn about him, and I hope that you can do the same with your partner. Thank you so much for watching today. If you want more from me, I send out weekly emails to my email subscribers, and you can sign up. I will link that below. And I send basically weekly untold stories and devotionals, kind of like this one. And I think you will enjoy them. I hope to always inspire you, make you feel normal, help you with practical tips to find joy in this sometimes chaotic life. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next one. I post every Monday.